Final score here on your Monday evening. Keaton Homer in the studios. So glad to have you along here on GCI Cable Channel 19 and Broadcast Channel 35. Been a while since we've had an episode. Didn't have a new episode on Wednesday, so we have a lot of sports stuff to get to. High school football kicking off this past weekend. We'll update you on the scores from week one. We'll get you updated on preseason NFL action, the Major League Baseball scoreboard. We'll also have Are You Kidding Me? All coming up here on Final Score, right here on GCI Cable Channel 19. So let's dive right into it. Let's get right into the football action this past weekend. And, of course, Alaska high school football, a very unique tradition, usually one of the first states to kick off the season of high school football. Traditionally, in years past, Alaska had the first high school football game, but now it's become such a big deal that everybody's looking toward football. You got major TV networks getting involved, ESPN, CBS Sports Network, so many other regional networks that want to broadcast the first high school football game. So it's not necessarily that Alaska kicks off the high school football season around the nation. It used to be that way. Some other states have already kicked off their high school football season, but for us here in Alaska, last week was the official start of the high school football season, and we had a game on the Alaska Sports Channel between Diamond and South, and what a way to start. A conference game, a Cook Inlet Conference football game between those two schools who were ranked in the top 5 of the Alaska Sports Broadcasting Network preseason poll. South was coming in, I think, at number 2, and Diamond was at number 3 to start the preseason poll. And South pretty much dominated. It was 20-0. It was the final score. The Wolverines able to take it over the Diamond Lynx. And I'll tell you what I was most impressed with about that was the South defense. South for years has been able to light up teams on the scoreboard, at least in the past couple of years, with their offense. Their offense has been pretty potent. Not a lot of secrets to their offense. It's just great execution. Their offense was somewhat stagnant at times, but their defense put their offense in decent positions at key points in the game for them to capitalize. First couple of points were coming off field goals. Diamond trailed, I think, at the end of the first half, 10-0. And then 10 more points tacked on by South in the second half to go on to win that game by the final score, 20-0. Diamond, I mentioned last week, a team to look out for. I still think they are. I still think a lot of people underestimate the Diamond Lynx. In week 1 of the season, it was 2 teams who run virtually the same offense. And I think that's why you saw such a defensive battle. I mean, both teams see it every day in practice. They know how to defend it. They know how to stop it, where the weak points of it are at. And I think that is why you saw such kind of a stalemate game. Now, going into week 2, it'll be interesting to see how Diamond can rebound. I'm looking ahead to the schedule here, and Diamond in week 2 of the season is going to take on West, a team who beat Palmer, the West High Eagles, on Friday of last week. We'll get to that game in a moment. But Diamond doesn't have an easy road. Nobody does from here on out. Week 1, many of the Cook Inlet Conference teams had a non-conference game. I'm not saying those non-conference games were rollovers or easy games. But generally speaking, you're playing, and no disrespect to, the 3A in the Rail Belt Conference, but generally speaking, you're playing teams that are a little bit below the level of the 4A, at least skill-wise. And so it's kind of that preparation week. And now from here on out in the Cook Inlet Conference, for the next 7 weeks, it's going to be a battle from the top down. There's no easy games from here on out. You can't take anybody lightly. And Diamond doesn't get a break. They have to take on the defending state champion next week at Anchorage Football Stadium. That game's set to be played on Friday at 7 p.m. at AFS. Our game of the week, by the way, as you can see on the TV, we're going to have Bartlett and East, a battle for the boot. 2 teams in the past few years who have been down a little bit. Bartlett looking to rebound. They got to got a big win against Lathrop, putting up a lot of points. I think they put up like 35-plus points in the first half against Lathrop. Looked very impressive. Have the wing T offense running very well. So it'll be interesting to see who wins the boot. You can throw, just to go on this game for a little bit, the boot is a game. It doesn't matter what your record is. It doesn't matter if one team's undefeated and one team hasn't won a game yet. Throw all the records out the window. There is pride in this game for both schools. And if you don't know the history of the boot, I don't know if we'll get to it right now because it's kind of somewhat of a long history. And maybe we should get both head coaches for East and for Bartlett on the show to talk about it because it is such a cool way to remember a former player who was a big part of the community. And it is a great way for the community of Bartlett and East who share pretty close boundaries for them to come together for one game and remember a player. Remember a former student athlete who lost his life, I believe, in a car accident. And not only are they playing a football game and it means, something in the win-loss column, but it means so much more than that. Be sure you tune in for that game here on the Alaska Sports Channel, the kickoff between East and Bartlett. 7 p.m. at the Anchorage Football Stadium on Saturday night. We'll be there. Our crew will be there. Other games coming up. Chugiak and South at 7 o'clock on Saturday. At 1 p.m., Service versus Eagle River at Anchorage Football Stadium. And like I mentioned on Friday, Diamond West at Anchorage Football Stadium. All right, so we got the upcoming games coming up. Let's get back to some of the games from the previous week. West was taking on Palmer. West was on cruise control, at least through the first half against Palmer. Then the offense kind of fizzled out. And I believe they had a 28-6 lead at the end of the first half against Palmer. Big reason why, and it's sad, you never want to hear this happen, but their stud wide receiver, I can't remember the young man's last name. I know his first name's Lorenzo, ends up having a severe knee injury, and he's going to miss the rest of the season. This young man had already caught 2 touchdown passes against Palmer. He was their go-to guy. And once again, West is faced with some adversity. Remember week 2 of last year when they were playing Chugiak, they lost their starting quarterback, Sam Whedon, to a knee injury. And now they lose one of their stud wide receivers. He's only a sophomore, by the way. But he was a go-to wide receiver and a playmaker for the West High Eagles. And he goes down to a knee injury. West, after that injury, rattled off, 9 wins in a row to go on to win the state title. How do they rebound? Now having to face a Diamond team who's coming off of a loss. They're coming off of a win, but lost a key part of their offense. How do they handle the situation? Some interesting storylines going into week 2 already. The high school football season here in Alaska is very interesting because it's only 8 weeks long. If you're lucky, it's 11 weeks if you make it to that state title game. But it's only 8 weeks long. And so much happens within that 8-week time span. It's crazy. Update you on the Service game against Wasilla. Remember, Service now hosting games at their school. They have a brand new turf, bleachers, lights in. They played Wasilla at the open of this season last week, and boy, was it a struggle. Service, of course, over the past couple of years, a team that's won some state titles, has been in the state championship game. They were in the state title game last year, and now they have a new quarterback coming in, a transfer actually from Bartlett, Zyrell Jones, who played at Bartlett the previous 2 years. Now at Service, and Service, a team that usually lights up the scoreboard with points, or has been known to, but they struggled to a 14-6 victory over Wasilla on their new field. Bottom line is you got the victory, though. And like I said, now Service gets Eagle River. Although Eagle River, a program that's a team and a school that has struggled in football. But don't sleep on the Eagle River Wolves. I don't care who it is. Anybody on any given Friday or Saturday night can come up and sneak behind you and bite you. So what appears to be a cakewalk for Service this weekend, maybe to improve to 2-0, but we'll see what happens. But the offense didn't look like the potent offense of old, and I don't think it's going to be. I don't think you're going to see the Service Cougar offense that puts up 35, 42, 50 points a game. I don't think that's going to happen this year, just because of who they've lost. They've lost so many dynamic people. And it's tough to have new guys come in and have that same production, at least immediately. Maybe Service gets there later on in the year, but I think it's going to be a struggle offensively for the first few weeks. And they're going to have to rely on their defense the way they relied on their defense against Wasilla to close that game out. Let's take a look at the scores before we go to break from week one. Shukiak went down to Kodiak and defeated the Kodiak Bears by the final score of 50-0. Like I said, Service took down Wasilla 14-6. Soldotna beat Eagle River 53-6. Bartlett defeats Lathrop 47-14. And Diamond, like I said, lost to South 20-0. Take a look at the scores from Friday just before we go to break here. And East losing to Colony 23-13. Palmer losing to West 28-6. And North Pole taking down West Valley 41-35. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, take a look at the NFL preseason scoreboard and also the Major League Baseball scoreboard right here on Final Score. Stay tuned.